When you learn how much you're worth, you'll stop giving people discounts. Unknown. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Hayley Luckadoo of Luckadoo Media. I had so much fun doing this interview with Hayley. We chatted for a long time and covered so much that I will be bringing our interview to you over the next couple of weeks. You don't want to miss it because there's so many lessons to learn here. So let's jump in. Welcome to the Stitched for Success podcast, where we are teaching business and life lessons that will help you launch, grow, or scale your creative business. I am Monica Allen, and I'm a wife, mom, daughter, entrepreneur, author, friend, lifelong learner, and host of this podcast. For over 8 years, I was stuck in corporate and dreamt of escaping. Creating a side hustle with just $700 and having taken the leap over 15 years ago, we have since grown multiple six-figure and seven-figure brands. Being an entrepreneur for over 18 years has afforded me many successes and a few failures. I want to share those with you so you can grow and be successful in your business. Hayley is a marketing coach and motivational speaker who empowers entrepreneurs to let go of the things holding them back and take the steps toward bigger dreams and a better life. Hayley has so much joy and passion for her unplanned and unexpected entrepreneurial journey. I will let Hayley introduce herself and her business in her own words, but Hayley and I got into a wonderful discussion that I'm entitling Know Your Worth, because as a creative, we often undervalue our services and don't often charge enough for the expertise we bring to the table. Please take a listen to the first half of my conversation with Hayley. Hayley of Luckadoo Media joins me today. Hayley and I met on Clubhouse. Hayley, I am so excited to have you join me on the Stitch for Success podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. And so let's just jump right in. And Hayley, tell me a little bit about what led you down this entrepreneurial path.
Oh gosh, that could be a really long story. I'll try to keep it short, but basically, I never intended on being an entrepreneur, running a business, any of that. I was very multi-passionate, loved a lot of different things, and went into college just wanting to try everything, right? Changed my major 9 times. Finally settled on criminal justice. I was going to be a lawyer. That was the plan. But I never really felt like that was right for me because I had so many passions that I wanted to try. But, you get halfway through college and everybody's like, okay, you got to pick something. So that's what I chose. I was okay with it, not fully happy with it, but okay with it. And I had been dating this guy since high school. And he proposed, we got engaged. And going into my senior year of college, we were supposed to get married right before that. So we were supposed to get married in June. I was going to start school in August, do my senior year, and everything was going to be great. And a month before our wedding, he called it off and just said, I can't do it anymore. I'm out. And that same week, I got a letter from my school saying, hey, unless you can come up with all the money for tuition, you can't come back. Because I was a full financial aid student. So they cut my financial aid and I didn't have the money to go back to school. So in a moment's notice, everything that I thought made up my future was totally gone. And, I had that whole rock bottom moment where I cried my eyes out and wallowed in it for days and all of those things, but ended up just saying, okay, I've got to do something to pay the bills and keep the lights on. What can I do? Because I couldn't bear the thought of just continuing to wait tables or work in a retail shop or, the things that lots of college kids typically do to get by.
Right.
And I ultimately said, okay, you know what? The one skill I feel like I do have, even though the wedding didn't happen, I just planned this wedding. And I got a lot of friends getting married. I'm just going to help them plan their weddings. They'll pay me a little bit of money and that'll keep the lights on. And that'll be what I do until I figure out my next move. I never intended on it to be a long-term thing, but I kept getting referred to other people and all of these things kept happening. And within 6 months, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running a business. I should probably figure out how to do that. and, Googled my heart out, like tried to learn everything that I could possibly learn and really built this business up. It was very successful for about 6 years. And in year 3, I just fell in love with marketing and social media and content and all of these things, and started helping some other wedding professionals with that kind of back end stuff in their business. And everybody was like, "Oh, you should turn this into a second business. You're so good at it. You've been so helpful to my business." And I was like, maybe I could do that. So I went to my husband. I was like, "I think I'm going to start a second business." And he was like, "How's that going to work? You don't have time for that." And I'm like, "I don't know. I have no idea, but I'm going to figure it out." And that's how Luckadoo Media was born. And that's evolved and transitioned over the last 3 years, and grew so quickly to the point where I was like, okay, I don't have time to do everything. So what do I really love? What am I passionate about? What still lights me up? And that wasn't weddings anymore. So we closed down the wedding planning business. I started adding things like coaching and speaking and my podcast and all of this stuff. And it's just evolved over and over and over again into what Luckadoo Media is today. So now I'm a marketing coach, I'm a motivational speaker, and really helping primarily women in business with creating really profitable marketing strategies that actually turn into revenue. And then on the motivational side, just doing a lot of speaking at conferences and things like that to just get women to embrace where they're at while also working toward those really, really big dreams. So I had no intention of getting into it, but I am so happy the way that it worked out, and literally never looking back.
Wow, that's fantastic though. I love the fact that you took what was a really hard time for you and turned it into something that has propelled you in your life. That is wonderful. Did you eventually bring on some team members, or did you outsource some things? How did you figure out?
I started outsourcing like crazy. And I feel like that's when my business, I don't want to say that's when it's really, really started growing, because it was growing before that. I was doing a decent job on my own, but that's when I just felt that shift, of okay, no longer am I this dumb college kid trying to run a business, not having a clue what's going on and which way is up. Now I've got some leverage. I got a little bit of my time back. I can put that time toward the things that matter, or the things that I should be working on, instead of fine tuning every little, social media caption, or answering every email, or doing this and doing that. And that really, it was a big change, a big shift for my business. So I started outsourcing a lot. Now my husband works part-time for my business. So he's my only official team member, but I outsource like crazy. So I've got a lot of, independent contractors that help me with things in my business. And I love it. I'm like, yes, take it off my plate, take it away. I don't want it anymore.
And that's so freeing, because when you get those hours back, it gives you an opportunity to grow. And therefore you ended up with Luckadoo Media. And tell me a little bit more about that. What was your start to getting into that? And how did you grow that over the years?
Yeah. So when it started, like I said, I really was just kind of like, oh, I've outsourced some things. I got a little extra time on my hands. I'd love to make a little extra money. I'm, love marketing, love social media. And I just had a few wedding vendors who were like, how did you do this? How are you doing that? And I was like, oh, well, let me help you. We'll put together a little package. I'll help you out. So it didn't really start with a plan, which seems to be a trend for me with starting businesses. But I basically started with a lot of admin work. So checking emails and putting together those SOPs and onboarding, into CRM systems, organizing CRM systems, all those things. And then social media. So I was mainly focusing on Instagram and Pinterest, because those are the two areas that I had really honed in on and felt like I could be beneficial in. And so I started doing that, and basically charged by the hour, and had no idea what to charge. So I was charging $10, I think, at first. And just every couple of months I upped it by $2 or $3 an hour. And eventually I was like, okay, we got to do better than this. So we put together actual packages. We stopped charging by the hour. I stopped doing admin work because I didn't love it. I was like, this is not for me. I outsource this stuff in my own business. Why am I doing it for somebody else? And so
Right.
we really honed in over the years on, and we really started as a virtual assistant business, not so much a digital marketing company, which is what we are now. But we really honed in on the 3 areas we wanted to focus on, which was Instagram management, Pinterest management, and podcast editing. Because those were the 3 things that I was like, I enjoy doing this. I'm very good at this. This is what I can best serve my clients with. And we just grew. We had a couple clients who really stuck with us, for the long haul. And once we kind of made that pivot into the Luckadoo Media that we are now, we really brought on clients who were the best fit for us and who could really understood what we could do for them. And it's just grown over the years. So it's cool to watch a business transition like that because, it started out of nothing.
Right.
And I remember like putting together a little 1-page website on my own and just basically saying, hire me for anything, I'll do it, and charging $10 an hour. And now we're like, okay, here's our 3 things. Here's our packages. Here's who we like to work with, come sign with us for a couple months and see how it is. And so it's just interesting to see that transition, but it's evolved a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, it definitely seems like you're so willing to pivot and go the direction that one, your heart takes you, but also that really you see a need. And I think that you will always be successful in business if you're not so attached and you're willing to do that. I love that. And there was something else you made me think about, Hayley, when you were talking about starting out, and sometimes that happens. I just kind of forget where I was going.
That happens to all of us. That's me all the time. I'm like, where was I going with that?
Where was I going with that? But what I was going to ask you about earlier that came back to me is pricing. Mm-hmm. I have been in a creative space for years, and I often find that people who are in a creative space often don't charge enough for their services.
So true.
Because, it's easy for you. And so you're kind of like, oh, well, I can do this in 5 minutes and it won't take me long, so I won't charge. What was it that made you say, okay, I'm not charging enough for my services? What advice would you give to someone who's starting out in a creative space and determining their pricing?
Yeah. Number 1, stop charging based on the amount of time it takes you to do something. Because let's be honest, most of us, if we are charging for something, it's because we've gotten very good at that thing, right? We can do it faster than the average person. Yes. So that's great. But the reality is, think about like a cashier at a store, right? They're being paid by the hour, and it doesn't matter how fast they check somebody out. They're coming in for their 8-hour shift and they're being paid for that 8-hour shift. They're not being paid based on how many people they can get through their line, right? It doesn't matter how quick or slow they go. They were hired because they were good for the job. Yes. So it's the same, a little bit of the same concept in our businesses. You were hired because you're good for the job. You were hired because of your experience or your expertise, or that your personality and your communication style works really well for this client, right? They saw a value in you that they did not see in somebody else. And if that value was your low price point, they are never going to value the work that you did for them. So it is not a good fit as a client. And you and them are always going to come out disappointed because they don't value you. They don't value your expertise. So that's what you're charging for. Because when you charge for your experience, when you charge for your expertise, that's when you get clients who value your experience and your expertise. So stop saying, oh, it takes me, 1 hour to do this, so I'm just going to charge for that 1 hour. And I think a good price point for that is this. No, think about how long it would take the client to do it. Right? How long would it take them? And if you think, oh, well, I don't know, the average person would probably take a while to do this because I've gotten really good at it. They'd take like 4 hours. Okay, charge for 4 hours. Like that's what you should. I don't care if you can get it done in an hour. Charge what it would cost them to do it. Right? Because that's when you're really saying, hey, I understand my price point's a little higher, or, I understand that you got a little bit of a lower budget here, but here's why I charge what I charge. If you're just saying, oh, well, I charge by the hour, then you're telling your client, I don't value the expertise that I have. I don't have actual value to give you. I'm just charging for my time. And clients are going to see that. So the clients you really want to work with who value what you do, they're going to keep walking. They're going to go find somebody who values themselves. You're going to end up with those budget clients who only hired you for that low ticket price. And that is not the people. I don't care what you do, what industry you're in. Those are not the people that you want to work for. So really, really value yourself, value your expertise, not just the time that it takes you to do something.
Yes. Yes. I often tell people that I meet, like, that person's just not your ideal customer.
Right.
And everybody's not going to be your ideal customer. There are some people that it's okay to let them go and let them move on because they don't, like you just said, they don't value the work that you bring, the quality and the expertise that you bring. That was brilliant. I love that. The biggest takeaways from this episode, and I hope you carry them with you as well, is 1, you are the expert. You have perfected your craft to a point that it simply doesn't take you as long to provide the service you are getting paid for. And your client either doesn't have the expertise to do what you do, or even if they did, it would take them a lot longer to do it. So you do not charge for the time that it takes you to do something, but charge for the expertise that you're providing to your client or customer. Get away from charging by the hour and base your price on the value you bring to the project. 2, every customer is not your ideal customer, and it's okay, period. I have had customers in the past tell me that we are too expensive, which can be extremely frustrating when they are perhaps wearing a Ralph Lauren polo shirt or carrying a Michael Kors or Louis Vuitton bag. It's frustrating because we're making something custom for someone, meaning it's only being made just for them, whereas the brands that I previously named are getting thousands of these items made and charging an extremely premium price for their product. Now, I'm not saying they're not worth the price. They are, but they aren't custom. So when a customer says this to me, I recognize and realize that they do not value the service we provide, nor appreciate the love and the customization that we put into every piece we create, and thus they are not our ideal customer. I appreciate Hayley so much for joining me on this episode today. Please come back next week and hear the second half of my conversation with Hayley, where we discuss the challenges she's faced and what took her from her wedding planning business to a social media expert forming Luckadoo Media and a podcaster of Females on Fire. If you would like to get in touch with Hayley, please see the show notes where you can find all of her contact info. And before I go, I mentioned back in episode 36 entitled How to Create Your Own Stimulus Check that I was working on a new project. I recently launched Become Your Own Boss, which includes a 21-day quick start program for those of you out there who are aspiring entrepreneurs. By the end of the 21-day program, you will have your business launched. This does not mean that you will be making 4 and 5 figures at the end of 21 days, but you will have the infrastructure of a solopreneur business launched. Go to becomeyourownboss.school to check it out. Again, that is becomeyourownboss.school. I realized a couple of years ago that though I did not go into the field of education, I do enjoy teaching. And in this program, I teach you step by step and provide you a checklist for starting your business. It is all the stuff that I wish I would have had at my fingertips when we started our first business. And you can avoid all of the Googling that Hayley mentioned having to do years ago when she started her first business. Thanks so much for joining me on this episode. I am grateful that you took the time to listen. Please feel free to continue this conversation with me on Instagram at Stitch for Success, or join me in the Stitch for Success Facebook group. Remember to know your worth. Value the expertise that you're providing and charge accordingly. If you know an aspiring or early stage entrepreneur or a side hustler wishing to turn that hustle into their main business, please share this podcast with them. Also, please rate and subscribe. Take care and have a great one.